just gonna wedge up just the regular Klamath buff. Stuff is a bit moldy, which is good. And I'm just gonna wedge it until it's in a nice, usable scenario here. Okay, round 2, I got my Klamath yellow. And you'll notice I'm using less than I did with the Klamath buff. I want the buff to be the base, where you're gonna be able to see the marble of the other stuff in it as well. So I'm just gonna get that. Just gonna get a little bit of a smaller scenario here. Okay, got my Klamath red now, using a similar amount to the Klamath yellow. A little bit less, just because the darker colors are gonna want to overpower everything. So I've got my Klamath brown, and you'll notice I got an even smaller amount right here. And again, I'm just gonna wedge it out so we're ready to rock and roll. I want them to have a similar moisture and texture, and then we're all gonna be ready for the next part. I'm not gonna wedge it too much, just because I wanna get it ready to go. So I've got my Klamath brown, my Klamath red, my Klamath yellow, and my Klamath buff. And all I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna kind of flatten them out. The brown is enough to just kind of flatten out like right there. Red, I'm gonna do very similar scenario. Okay, right? Yellow, again. And you can already see that if you're going in this direction, your fingers will already start to mess up what's going on here. Now when we get to the bigger one, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut this guy in half, because I wanna have these going throughout it, right? I want my Klamath buff is gonna be my main one. I'm just gonna kind of sandwich it in between here like this. So the idea here is you got yourself a little fun hamburger looking thing. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm just going to wedge all of this together. And the key to marbling is that you don't wedge too much, right? So we're gonna get in here and we're gonna mess them up, but we're not going to over wedge. If we over wedge, it defeats the whole purpose of this. But we do want to get in here, and we do want to get them intermixed more than they are. You can already kind of see how it looks pretty cool. This is also going to have the benefit of, like, clays have been sitting out at all. It'll get them a little bit more consistent going throughout. And again, you can overmix this very easily, and then you will not have any of the marbling that you're trying to achieve. Okay, that's more than I want to do right now. So you can already see the marbling in there. You can see the yellow getting interspersed in the other stuff. That's probably what I'm going to start with. So now we have this. We're about to set it down on there. You could flip it upside down and just go with this. I'm just going to put it down here. This is how I usually do it. And I'm just going to trim off the top, give you an idea what it looks like on the inside. Can see we're already exactly where we want to be. So see, I was starting to actually like over wedge on this, and that is not where we want to be. But anyway, we're gonna get on this and we're gonna get started. So I'm just gonna throw this on the hump, and all that means is I'm just gonna center some stuff right at the top. Not worry about what's underneath it. Just kind of center what's at the top. And I just want this to be as even as I can. It's gonna blend in real early, real fast. So I'm gonna get in here, drop my hole. Gonna widen it a little bit. And even if you don't get your inside complete or your outside completely centered, so long as your inside hole is dropped, it's not really gonna matter. Doesn't really matter what it looks like this. We're gonna wait till it dries, and when we trim it off, that's where it's gonna reveal. You can kind of see it. Okay, let's take this one off the wheel. So we have this. We want to pull up the second part of it. Now, because we're throwing on the hump, we have to pull up the clay from underneath it a little bit. And I'm going to just try and bring up a comparable amount that we had on that first one. Now I'm just going to push it down a little bit. And this is also how you wedge on the wheel, so you got to be careful how many times you do this, because you don't want to wedge it too much. Okay, basically where we need to be. I'm just gonna take the rest of this because now I have 6 mugs. I wanna preserve this for when I'm gonna do some handles. So I'm just gonna take the last of this, and I am just gonna get it a little bit more conical. So that when it's time, I can just use this to pull it down, and I already have it started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is this. I'm just gonna pull this up. And now I'm just gonna bring it down. And I'm just gonna get it a little bit more cone shape, so that when it's time, I'll have my clay to pull from on the top, and the rest I'll be able to use. Want it stuff to be nice, leather hard. You can see on this, it's not quite there. But on the bottom, you see that nice marble. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim this, because we need to trim it anyway. And in the process of trimming it, we're gonna remove the excess stuff on the bottom and reveal all of that. So what I like to do, grab a needle tool, like any trimming, just kind of put it down there, give me an idea. Hey, where's the bottom on that? Yikes. Real far up there. And the other part of this that you can do while you're working on it is kind of get an idea. What does the bottom of your pot look like? Is it scooped? All of that fun stuff. Going a little bit at a time until I get this even. I'm gonna come back once it's not even. You gotta consider as you get further and further out, you can see the marbling going really wild in this one. Last part of this is, you'll notice I have the clay from the last bit that was left on the wheel. I got it into a conical shape, and we're just going to pull some handles using this so that they too can have some of the marble. You're just going to need a gallon of water. You don't need a gallon, but you need enough water to remove any friction. And this is simple pulling handles. So we're going to get our hands wet, and we're going to just get in there. And this is nice to do over a bucket of water. I'm just going to do it right here so you can see it better. But basically, you're just going to get in there, and you're going to spin this around left and right to get it even, and you're going to just pull these handles down. You also want to decide how many fingers do you want to use in this mug when you're using it. Is it a one finger, or using your whole finger? And so that's where you're going to kind of go there and then kind of figure out, okay, if I want to go 3, is it long enough for that? And I like to leave the little broken part on the bottom because it looks a little bit more handmade to me. You can cut that off if you like. That's really up to you. Next part, what you're going to do, I'm just going to take the knife, kind of look at where it's thinnest, where I want it. I'm going to set it on its side here. You can still see on the inside there, you still get that marble going on. And again, I'm gonna kind of try and figure out, I think I want this to be 2-fingered. You want it to be bigger than your 2 fingers because it's gonna shrink by about 12%. Now I'm gonna make the rest of them.